Okay, hello everyone. This is the week 1 of, week 2, right? Week 2 of our Excel workshops. Last week was the first session. We just had a quick look at Excel for data analysis in week 1, and a brief introduction of the whole series. This is the second session in week 2. So today our task is to learn how to use Excel to create some data visualization for interpretation and for communication purposes. So this is the data set we are using. Is in the chat. If we go to Teams chat and it is the data set G20 members economy, you can download and open the file and then work. See what I'm doing with the data. Okay. I have already opened my file here. This is my data file, the one I shared it with you in the chat box. Okay. For people who just joined in, if you can help, people can help each other in the chat box, that'd be great. Yeah. Okay. So I'm recording this session, so I will release the recording afterwards with all the registrants to the workshop. So here's a very small data set. Again, it's a real data I got from Wikipedia. Here's a link here. If you go to first row column AB, here's a link to the Wikipedia site. So the data is about the 20 members of the the G20 group. Okay, G20 group. The country economies in the world, because it includes countries and also country group like European Union. Okay. So we just call them 20 economies in the G20 group. And then we have the for each member of the G20 group, we have the description in terms of the trade volume in US dollars in 2021, nominal GDP in 2022, PPP as kind of a purchase something adjusted GDP, GDP per capita, okay, in 2022. Population area of the economy, okay, or country. Membership in other groups like the G7, BRICS, OECD, Commonwealth, okay, OPEC, okay, and also the IMF economy classification of the each of the G20 members. IMF represents International Monetary Fund, okay. Very small data set, like 15 something variables and 20 observations, a very small data set. So we're going to learn today how to use Excel to create some commonly used data visualization. For example, tables and graphs for interpretation and also for communication with about your data. So basically, let me just check any more people in here. No, not really. It's all right. So basically, there are two purposes for data visualization. Right. The first one is to get information from the data. Is for you to, as an analyst, is for you to get information or knowledge or whatever insights from the data set, because the data normally just look at this, a spreadsheet. It's hard to comprehend, right, for human beings. Just a bunch of rows and columns. The raw data is hard to interpret. So the first purpose for data visualization is to get insights from the data using tables and graphs. The second purpose of data visualization is to present the insights to your audience. As an analyst, you get some insights from the data, and then you have a story, you have a narrative, or you have a conclusion or hypothesis, whatever insights you get from data. You probably want to present that to your audience, to your supervisors, to your students, to your readers, to your subscribers, okay, potential customers or existing customer, whatever audience they are. You can use data visualization to present your insights from data to the audience, and then visualization is a very powerful way of analyzing data because it's easier to comprehend. We are human beings. We are used to seeing things, seeing graphs and tables, and then also they are easier to memorize. Okay, the visual information can last longer in your brain, in people's brain. All right, so tables, frequency tables. So for example, when we analyze data, normally we have to know the variable or variables we want to investigate. Okay, so for example, IMF economy classification is one variable in this data set. Okay, it tells us if each member is an emerging economy or advanced economy. And if I want to know the G20 members IMF economy classification in general, I can count the frequency of each value. Okay, so I can count how many of them are advanced economies and how many of them are emerging economies. Now, for this example, it's probably too easy or too simple to use any table or graph because it's only, we have only 20 observations, and then we can easily count 10 advanced ones and 10 emerging ones. But imagine we have a long list, like 1,000 or 500 rows in the data set. And then we have probably more than 2 values, okay? 3 or 4 or 5 values for this variable. In that case, it's probably not easy to just look at the raw data and then figure out the situation here. So so the table will be easy to get insights and then present insights to the audience. Now, how to get a table, frequency table of the values? The best way, I think, is to use a pivot table. I have an example here. Pivot table. Okay, that's a pivot table. Do you remember how to create a pivot table? So in this pivot table, we have the values of the variable. We have 2 values, and then have the frequency of each value in the data set. We have 10 advanced and 10 emerging economies. Again, it's a very simple example. Now, how to get this pivot table? Remember last week? Once your data is nicely set up as a block like this, you see it's a block data. Okay, we just have to randomly select any single cell in the block of data. Just highlight a single cell in the block of data and go to insert pivot table.
Hold on a sec. Sorry. Just one sec. What was that? Yeah, you can come around to my side. We're just having minor technical difficulties.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Actually, what might be good? Have you got the file, the Excel file?
No, I don't know.
One second. So
yeah,
were you able to get into the chat at all? Into the
Can't see what it is.
Yeah, I'll email you. Yulin, is there any chance you can email the file directly?
Yes, I can. Yep.
To Newt?
No problem.
And then maybe Newt, if you bring up the Excel, I can leave his on our screen. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep.
Let's go bring it up now. Where do I see my email again?
But it might let you log. Do you want me to see if we can get you to log to log it in or as
No,
well
that should be okay.
to the Teams? Okay.
Because I just need to send it, give them my email, don't I?
You should have an email that you registered with, I imagine.
Yeah. Should be on the Sean.
Yeah, this is you here, isn't it?
No, that's
Oh
not me.
no.
Yeah, try
Okay,
again.
we've got the wrong name. That makes. What was your name again?
Sean.
Sean.
SHARN.
Yeah. Try download again the file from chat. I just approved the access.
Put here. SH.
ARN.
Yeah, I just approved the access, so you should be able to access it.
Okay. Just looking at it now, I should be able to find it. Hopefully.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Hang on.
Just send you
Yeah,
an email.
I've registered, but it's not showing up in my email. I'll figure it out. I'll just continue watching.
That's okay. We can watch from here.
Yeah.
I'm just flipping back and forth between the
Excel.
Excel. This is my.
Yeah, I'll just email you, so you should receive that in your email.
Do you send it to Sean Kennedy at QUT?
Yeah.
No, it says Novat Sporati something space. Is it wrong one?
Yeah. Yeah, that's my name there.
How do you?
So I've just put it in the chat. Hopefully I've got the spelling right.
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, I'll have 3 people there then. Okay, we have one more.
Missed you there, so
No,
that's-
yeah, Novat online, and I have Strong here. All right.
Sorry, I assumed you were the other one.
No,
I was like, oh, I wonder how he's
Yeah,
listening to that.
No,
Secret earbuds.
That's okay.
What's your email address, Strong?
I believe it's Sean.Kennedy.
Oh, maybe your student ID.
Oh yeah. Too many of these. N11 5 6 2 2 4.
Thanks. All right, we can continue then.
Okay.
So it's recorded. It's all right. Eh? No problem.
I think we're getting there. I'll just email you as well. Hopefully. I'm sure that you wanted.
All right. So how to get the pivot table? So if just highlight any single cell, and go to insert pivot table. Excel will automatically highlight this block of data, as you can see here. the flashing, the dash line. Okay. And then put a pivot table on a new spreadsheet. Yeah, I'm okay with that. You can just click OK. We'll have a new table, a new spreadsheet. It's a new spreadsheet. And then this is a pivot table area. And then if you click on that, you will see the pivot table fields panel. So you use this part to design your pivot table. So we want to know the IMF economy classification among these 20 members. So we can drop this one, just drag it into the rows. All right. And we can see the pivot table showing up. We have 2 rows. One is called advanced. This one is called emerging. So basically, the pivot table will list all the distinct values in different rows. So remember here we have a 2 values here. So pivot table show up these 2 values. And then I want to know the number of the frequency of each value in our set of data. Now you can drag the same variable again into values. Okay, into values. And because the variable is the values are words, characters, not numbers. When you drag this variable into the values, it will count the frequency. Count. Okay. If you left click this one, if you see the value field setting, there are the other functions. But because the variable is not numerical, is characters, the only one thing we can use is a count, the frequency. Okay. So we count in our data set in this column. In this column, basically, we count in this column the number of advanced and the number of emerging. Okay. So that's the frequencies of each value. Okay, we have 2 values for this variable and the frequency for each value, 10, 10. Okay. Again, this example is probably too simple. But imagine we have a larger data set and then we have more than 2 values. And then using this pivot table, we can quickly build this frequency table. Okay. And then if we want to know the relative frequency, which is the proportion, we can quickly calculate that in pivot table. So you just highlight the value, any single value here, and then you right click. You can choose show value as. I have a lot of options. Okay, we can show value as the percentage of a grand total. Okay, we show that like 50-50%. Okay, you can reduce the decimals or expand decimals. So now we call this one a relative frequency table. Relative frequency means the proportion in the group. Yeah, any question so far?
Can we just have a minute to make sure we're up to speed?
Yeah.
So how did you go?
I didn't get it, but this.
Did you get anything from me?
No, but I'll give you another one. I think I got the one wrong before, so it's that apparently.
Okay. Yeah. You got your email up. Sorry, won't only be a moment.
Yeah, I do apologize for this.
No, that's okay.
And where is? Oh, okay, make this confusing.
Okay, so that's your inbox for messages. But that's not your email.
Okay.
So yeah, bring up your email and then.
I'll fence this up real quickly. Do apologize, people.
No, that's okay. You can keep going if you like.
We'll figure this out.
Yulin, and we'll keep watching, but we'll try and catch up for the next example.
Okay. All right.
What about your normal, like your regular email.
Are you just going to
What-
forward it?
We're listening.
Okay. Yeah, so this frequency table for one variable. We can also have a frequency table for two variables. We call that contingency table or cross table. So now, suppose we have a IMF classification of economy, and then we also want to know how this maybe let's have a look at different example. So now let's see what if the variable is not categorical? Okay, so this variable is categorical with just two values. What about the variable is not numerical, it's number, like a GDP per capita, column E? Well, that's okay. You can still use the same logic. Now, I'm going to copy and paste the pivot table. So I'm copy this pivot table and paste one here. So now I have two pivot tables. Okay. For the second one, I'm going to replace the variable IMF classification to something else. So I can drag this variable out of the rows, and I'm going to replace it with nominal GDP per capita. This one, okay? I can drag that one into the rows. Now you can see that Excel will automatically grouping the values into groups. The raw data is in this column E. They are numbers. They're numbers, right? Again, this is a simple example, so we have only 20 numbers. But if you have like a 200 numbers or 2,000 numbers, it's probably harder to see. So that's why we need to group the numerical values into intervals. Excel can do this for you. So if you highlight these numbers, any one of them, and then you right click, and then you click group. So here we can group them into intervals. You can choose the starting point. You can choose the ending point. But the most important one is the interval length. So now you can see default Excel automatically divide my groups into intervals by 10,000. Okay, starting from 2,000. I guess 2,000 is smallest value here. Well, not really. The smallest value is 2551. So Excel kind of trying to be smart, just do this automatic grouping for me, but you can override it. So if you want to start from 2,500 and then group by 500. You got a different grouping. Okay. So you can design your grouping. Okay. I'm happy with starting from 2,000. I maybe probably a grouping by 5,000.
It's one of these examples. Here it is. Right, count of capita.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got really bad eyesight, so I can only like see so much at one point.
All right, and then we can calculate the group frequency. So basically, we calculate how many rows are having their values falling in those groups. So here we just replace a show value as count. count. Okay. Because we are interested in just the frequencies of the observations. Sorry, frequencies of the values among these 20 observations. So this value part, you can use any variable. Okay, any variable, as long as the variable doesn't have a missing value. So I would like to use the same variable. So I put the values here, and then make sure I'm requesting the count. And then what's going on? It's a bit weird.
Mm.
Yeah, so this is the frequencies of the value groups. So we have 3 observations in this group, 3 economies in the second group, okay, and then 1 economy in the highest group. Okay. So that's how we can using a table, frequency table, to see the distribution of the values in the data set. And then you can also use a chart. So if, for example, for this IMF classification economy, we can insert a donut chart. Insert donut chart. Again, this
Yeah.
must be boring. Half circle each, because of 50%, 50%. Okay. And for this distribution of the intervals, GDP per capita into the groups, we can insert a bar chart.
This one.
You probably don't need the title, don't need the legend. Something like that.
Mhm.
And then you can modify the chart. So you probably don't want the buttons, the gray buttons. We call them field buttons. Just highlight the chart and go to chart analyze, and then turn off the field buttons. Get a clean chart with no buttons on it. And if you right click format data series, you can change the donut hole size. Okay. The angle. Okay. And more importantly, the fill. The color you want. You can highlight any single cell and the format color, change the color. So lots of options. For bar chart, same thing. Double click or right click format data series. You can change the chart ways, gap ways. Okay. The fill color, the border color, transparency. Okay. Solid fill, transparency. Okay. Or gradient fill. Okay, up to you. And then you probably don't want the green lines because it looks a bit too busy. First of all, let's remove the button. So we highlight the chart and go to chart analyze and turn off the fill button. And then these grid lines, we probably don't want them. We can just delete them. Okay. Yeah, so That's a very simple way of seeing the frequencies of values or value groups. Now, for this numerical variable in statistics, we normally use something called a histogram. Okay, histogram is a kind of this kind of bar chart showing the frequencies of the value groups, but we want to remove the gaps between the bars. Okay. So once you remove the gaps between the bars of the group frequency table chart, it becomes a histogram. You probably learned that already in week 2 or week 1.
Yeah, I had a go at that last week, and it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a traditional way of creating histogram based on pivot table, based on grouped frequency table. But in Excel 2016 or later, if you're using Excel 2016 or later version, a newer version, you can insert the histogram from raw data. So just have to highlight this column data. Okay, and then go to insert, and then do something called a histogram here. Excel will insert a histogram based on raw data. Before 2016, there are different ways to, but there's no such option. You have to get a table and then create a histogram like this. So get a group frequency table based using PivotTable, and then bar chart it, and then remove the gaps between the bars. Or using some function in data analysis toolpath, which we will introduce later. But I think the histogram based on group frequency table is better. But in the newer version now, we have a option in the insert chart histogram and box plot. We can get the histogram box plot directly from the raw data. Now this is a raw draft histogram. If you want to manipulate the interval length, we call that bin ways in histogram language. You just have to right click and format axis. And then here you can change the design of the histogram. Right click, format axis, or just double click. And then here in this axis options, you check this one, bin weight, automatic, doesn't look good. Choose bin weight. And then here you can axis options, bin weight. And then here you can, this is like deciding the by number, the length of the interval. So I can divide the range into intervals of bins by, let's see, 1,000. Or maybe 10,000. Yeah.
Oh, yep. So that now matches.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can decide the number of bins. Okay. Number of bins. So I want the 6 bins. Excel will create equal length intervals, 6 intervals, or 6 bins for you. Yeah. Or I want the 5 bins.
Yes.
Maybe 5 bins is better. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, don't play with that.
So these are the 2 ways to create a histogram of a numerical variable using the insert histogram chart, or create a group frequency table first, and then insert a vertical bar chart or column chart, and then double click the bars, reduce the gap weights to 0%. No gaps between the bars. What we want to see is the shape of the histogram, the skyline. Okay, so we want to see the shape of the distribution. So in this case, we can see it's kind of most economies are in the low end. We have a few high end, like rich countries, and some are in the middle. Okay, nothing too exciting here. Yeah. Because our data set is very small, only 20 rows. So when you insert a histogram, you won't see any exciting or interesting pattern here. We can also insert a box plot for a numerical variable. Just highlight the data, for example, GDP per capita again, and then insert just below histogram. You can insert a box plot. Okay, box plot looks like this. Box plot. Again, you can choose no fill, just and then no grid lines. Okay, something. So box plot is based on the it's just a visualization of the important summary statistics, including the minimum, maximum, the median, the first quartile and third quartile. And Excel can also show the average by this cross. If you right click format data series, you can choose to show the average, the mean marker or not. Okay, yeah, get the mean there. The mean marker looks good. We'll talk about this box plot later when maybe in week 3 or week 4. When we talk about the summary statistics like the mean, median, quartiles, quantiles, this kind of stuff. Okay. All right.
You going okay then?
Yeah.
Just tell me if I'm hitting any buttons or doing anything that's annoying you.
Yeah, just following along. So they're making use of Excel.
Yeah. So how about two variables? What if I have two variables? So for example here, let's compare the economy classifications between OECD. Okay, you know OECD?
Yep.
So some economies in OECD, some economies are not in OECD. And then how about we compare the economy classification between the OECD groups. In that case, I'm going to copy this table again. We can put one variable in the column and then one variable in the rows. So we can put the IMF economy classification in the rows. So I can put the OECD membership in the columns. Okay, and then you drag any other variable into the values and then request count.
INF rows.
Okay. Yeah, you can drag any one of them. You can reuse one of them into values and then request count. Currently it looks a bit funny because I don't know, for whatever reason the values are showing as percentage. So just highlight the cells, right click, format cells. We don't want percentage, we want a general or number. Okay, just general. See the frequencies. So we have 10 advanced economies, 10 emerging economies, and in terms of OECD membership, we have 11 in OECD and 9 not in OECD. And you can see that there's some kind of interesting thing going on here. So for advanced economies, most of them are in the OECD. 9 of 10 advanced economies are in the OECD. And then for emerging economies, and most of them are not in the OECD group. So 8 of 10 are not in the OECD group. Okay, so we call this one a cross-tabulation of the frequencies or contingency table. You can use a graph to show this relationship. Just highlight any single cell and then go to insert. We can insert a 2D column chart. And then we have 3 options. We can put them side by side, or one on top of the other, or stacked, and then stacked percentage. So if we put them side by side, it looks like this. Okay. So we can easily see that we have advanced and emerging economies, and in the advanced group, most of them are in the OECD, and then in the emerging group, most of them are not in the OECD. Okay. I guess the chart is not ready yet. We have to label the axis properly. So first of all, I'm going to turn off the buttons. So highlight the chart design, pivot chart analyze, and turn off the field buttons. And then I want to label the horizontal and the vertical axis properly. So the horizontal one, I just have to add the plus button and axis titles, both horizontal and vertical. Okay, but you can edit it here directly. So the horizontal one, just highlight that, and then you can edit. Just type there. Just IMF economy classification. Okay, that's the beautiful thing of Excel. Just directly edit the things in the chart. You don't need any code or formula or anything. Just edit. Just click and edit. So the vertical one, I just say this one should be frequency. Okay. And then this yes no thing is a bit confusing. We need to tell need to tell people what this yes and no mean. I don't know why the OECD didn't show up. It should. Bit weird. Hmm.
This is where I'd screenshot a box and put it over.
No, 100%. It's just I'm trying to click format legend. It's just like I don't know what you mean. It's like I'm looking at it right now.
I'm going to be very happy, very excited to see it change, to see the step.
Yeah. So you can edit the table here because the table legend is connected to the column title. Yeah, so
Oh, look at yours. Yours is really fancy.
Fancy. Yes, so I changed the column just up here. It did automatically.
yeah, you can include insert a new chart with different design of the bars. Otherwise, just right click. You can change chart type. Yeah, you can change chart type here. Right click, change chart type to stacked bar chart.
Design.
Ah, design. Okay.
It all comes up at top.
Let's see if I can say it on my.
Yeah.
And that's how you can move it between little charts as well, because it's an automatic button. So, for instance,
I've got different. Is that on the web?
Yeah.
Your application or?
no, installed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to have more to play. Okay.
Or you can choose to stacked percentage. Change chart type to stack percentage.
See, I think that's quite a good that's a better representation. That's quite good.
Depending on what kind of thing you want to show. Are you focusing on the proportion? Are you focusing on the raw frequency? Okay. Okay, how about the GDP one? So let's compare the GDP per capita. The column E, the nominal GDP per capita, GDP per person.
Oh.
Yeah, we can compare this one between two groups, for example. Okay. So I'm going to insert pivot table again. I'm going to insert pivot table this time. I'm going to insert pivot table on the existing sheet. So on the sheet number 1. Okay. If you don't want to insert a new worksheet, just choose existing sheet. So I want to put my new pivot table on sheet number 1 and somewhere around here. Okay, somewhere here. So I just click the cell 638. The new pivot table will be placed over there. And now I want the GDP in the per capita, nominal GDP per capita. I want into rows. It's automatically grouped. You can override the grouping setting. Okay, up to you. You can change the by maybe to 10,000 or 20,000, up to you. I'm happy with the default grouping. And then put the grouping variable, the variable you want to compare into the columns. So I want to compare the GDP per capita between the advanced and then emerging economies. So I put the IMF economy classification in the row in the columns. Okay. And then I can put a variable into values to calculate the frequencies. Okay. So because our data is very nice, we have no missing values. So you can use any variable in the values to calculate the frequency. Okay.
Can I ask, if you did have missing values, would you just have to label it some way, or how do you get around that? Can you get around that?
Yeah, well, if you have a missing values, you have to be careful with your pivot table and with your graph, because it can be misleading.
Yeah.
So for example, I'll show you. Okay, so here, let's look at a simple example. Remember this one?
Yep.
Remember, I want to show you the simple one. So this one, we calculate the frequencies of IMF classification. This variable. In this whole example, we know that just by looking at raw data, we know that probably 10 advanced and 10 emerging. But if you have a long list, it's better to have a pivot table, the frequency table, and a chart. Now, in this case, I put the variable I'm interested into rows, the IMF economy classification. And then for the values, I just want to count the frequency of each value, each of the two values. I can use the same variable, IMF classification, and then put into values. I can also use other variables. Okay, so if I drag this out, I can also use let's see, trade. Okay, I can also drag trade into values.
Yep.
Because it's the numbers, the trade values are numbers, Excel will automatically calculate the sum of trade in each group. I don't want the sum, I want the frequency. So left click value field setting and then choose count. That's the frequency. Okay. Again, I want I don't want percentage, I just want a general number. So I have 10. Okay. Now, but if we have any missing value in the trade, for example, if we delete some cells, okay. If we delete some cells, okay. Now, if I use trade without knowing those missing values, I will get the wrong answer. Now that this answer is still right because it's based on the values based on the data before we delete this create those missing values. You need to refresh your everything. So go to highlight this table or chart. Go to analyze and then refresh.
Okay.
When you refresh. When you refresh the tables, the pivot tables and charts and everything else, formulas will calculate again based on the current data. Okay, so if I refresh, you see what happens?
Yeah.
It's incorrect because we are using, for this table, we are using, if I change the setting of my field list, I'm using the trade and request a count of trade. But my trade column has missing values. So those ones missing values will not be calculated. So this row, those rows with missing value, those are highlighted.
Yep.
Those rows with missing values in trade, their IMF classification will not be reflected in this pivot table.
Okay, so it does exclude them. Okay.
That's not what we want. And also the chart is wrong. Okay, because the true answer is we have a 50-50 split. 50% or 10 of 20 advanced and 10 of 20 emerging economies.
Okay.
So just be mindful when you are creating pivot chart and pivot table, especially for this frequency table. If you have no missing value, you can use any variable in the value corner and the request count. But if there are missing values, probably be careful with the variable you are using in the value column. So my advice is just always use the same variable. So I want to know the frequency distribution of this variable. Just drag that variable again into this corner of values. Okay, and then the missing value in other columns will not affect the calculation of frequency of this column. But if your data, if the column you are analyzing has missing value, and then you will have a missing value anyway. So if you have a missing value here, and then if I refresh, you will see some blank. See the blank row?
Okay, it does for that. Yep.
Yeah. So this tells us, because in the rows, it lists all the individual values of this column. And this column has has 3 individual values: advanced, emerging, and no value, missing value. Yeah, so it will show up as a blank. And of course, you can use a filter here to hide the blank one if you want to. Okay.
Yep.
But it depends on what story you're trying to present to your audience. To decide to hide a blank one or not. Okay. Yeah. It's up to you. Yeah. But Excel provides all the functions. Okay, well, coming back to the
Thank you.
analysis we are trying to do before, we are trying to compare the GDP per capita between advanced and economy and emerging economy. So the focus variable is GDP per capita, and then we are comparing between the two groups of IMF classification. So for this pivot table here, I'm going to put GDP per capita into rows, nominal GDP per capita into rows. Okay, and then I'm going to put IMF classification into the columns. And then this time it didn't group for me, so I need to group my GDP per capita. I group by 10,000, yes. And then I can drag a variable or any variable. I'm using the same variable again, GDP per capita, into the values, but this time remember to request count. I want to compare the distribution of GDP per capita between these two groups. So by default, when there are when the count is 0, Excel will show nothing in the pivot table. You can change the setting. If you go to just highlight pivot table and then go to pivot table analyze, and then go to design. Highlight pivot table, go to design, and then you can see
grand totals.
Not here. Sorry. Don't go to design. Just highlight pivot table and right click, and go to pivot table options. Pivot table option, and then you can see that can you see somewhere show 0 and display.
Yep.
I can't find it. I know. Yeah. For empty cells, layout and format. For empty cells, you can show 0. Okay, or show none. Okay, whatever you want to show. Let's show nil. Let's see what happens. Let's show nil. Alright. By default, it just show nothing for empty 0. Layout and format for empty cells. By default, it doesn't show anything. You can put 0 there. Just some small tricks. Okay, yeah. And then Sean mentioned the total stuff. So if you don't want the total, this kind of stuff, you can go to design and then go to subtotal and grand total things. You can turn on and turn off the total stuff. Yeah, if you don't like the grand total thing, you can turn it off. Yeah, you can see the difference, no?
Yep.
On and off. Yeah. It just kind of a settings. It may be useful when you are designing your pivot table, or you are using a pivot table in your design of like a company report or dashboard, something. You want the look to be consistent. Okay, you can just change the setting of the pivot table, and then those kind of annoying columns and rows will disappear. And there are other tricks. We can cover them in future cases. All right, so this is like the frequency of the groups in two groups by IMF classification. We can add a chart. So if you go to this highlight any single frequency and go to insert, and we can add a side-by-side chart. Side-by-side bar chart or column chart. This time is not very exciting because you can see that emerging economies are all in the low end, and the advanced economy are all in the medium and high end. Maybe we change the variable. We change the don't compare by MF classification. Maybe we'll compare by OECD membership. So if you drag the MF classification out of the columns and then put OECD membership in there. It looks a little bit more interesting.
It's a little bit more skewered in this instance, but not by much.
Yeah, a little bit overlapping here. Yeah. Or maybe we change. Anyway, I just want to show you that. So we can modify this bar chart. So we can. First of all, I don't like the green lines. Delete the green lines. And then I don't like the buttons. Delete the buttons. Turn off the buttons. You can let the two series overlap. Okay, so if you double click the bars or right click format data series, you can make the gaps very small gaps or zero gaps. Very small gaps. You can type here if you like, not like a 1% or 3%. Very small gaps. And then let it overlap, 100% overlap. Okay. And then you can change the fill's transparency. You know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this example is probably not, the data is not very exciting, so we don't have not much overlapping. But imagine we have a lot of overlapping by changing this part, series overlap to 100%. So basically you put one series on top of the other, and then by changing the solid fill color and careful choice of color and the transparency level, you can nicely overlap two series. So you can see that, yeah, instead of put them side by side, we put them two series overlap, and then you can see the distribution of two groups. Yeah. But this example is because the data is not very exciting, so we don't have much overlapping going on here, but you can still have some. For this legend, we have to probably modify the legend a little bit. So yes and no doesn't make much sense. If you go to a pivot table, you can edit this column label here. So no, we can change to not OECD. And then yes, we just change it to OECD. this column labels are connected to the legend. Yeah. Of course, we need to label the chart axis title properly. So the horizontal one is GDP. Right, and then the vertical one, it should be frequency, to be honest. So this one should be frequency. Okay, so when you design your chart or table, so make sure think about the readers, think about people using this. So make sure you don't have any confusing or misleading or ambiguous information there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think this kind of overlapping and then transparency trick works for two groups. If you have 3 groups, if our OECD classification, like the column variable has a more than 2 categories. Here OECD has only yes or no 2 categories, but if you have a more than 2 categories, like 3 or 4 categories, you will have a 3 or 4 series, and then I don't think it works well for more than 3 series. To overlap them. But for 2 series, 2 groups, this kind of overlapping and then transparency setting can have some nice chart. Yeah. And serve the purpose of comparing the. Basically, you are overlaying 2 histograms, one on top of the other. Okay. Okay, we have a bit more time. Probably finish early. Let's talk about this kind of chart. Do you remember this chart, scatter plot or XY plot?
Yep.
Yeah. So how to get this one? Very easy. So here I'm just position the members of G20 based on 2 things, 2 variables, one on X, one on Y. So based on the size of their economy or country and the population of economy or country. Okay. So how to get this? This one? Put the X variable area as an X variable and the population as a Y variable, and then label the dots, the data points by the name. Okay, we have a G20 members names. Okay, here, very easy. First of all, just click a blank cell, and go to insert XY plot or scatter plot, which is over here. Just the basic one. We have lots of variations, like those ones. You can link the points by curved lines or straight lines, or just lines without points. Or you can have a third variable, because to change the size of the points according to a third quantitative variable. It becomes something called a bubble chart. Okay. It may be useful, but very often I found it's hard to use because that makes your bubbles very squashed. Just the basic one. a blank scatter plot, and then right click, select data. So you can plot multiple series. Okay, I'll show you what it means in the next example. So just add one series now. You can give a name, and then the name. If you don't give a name, it's still okay, but you have to highlight the x values and y values. Okay, the name is optional, but the x values and y values range are has to be there. So the x values, I want the x values to be the x variable to be the area in kilometer gram square. Okay, and the y values I want it to population. Okay, so highlight these little x values, this little icon here, arrow, and then select the range. So the range I'm selecting to use for the x variable is column I, area. And the y values are population values, column H2, and then Control Shift down, and click OK, and then click OK, and then click OK again. Go back to your chart area. This is the chart. This is the chart. Now, normally I don't want the chart title in my chart. You can delete that. And then the grid lines, you probably don't want them for most business charts.
No, I didn't.
Do you get a plug? I don't know what the plugs are. Just watch the last one.
You can delete the grid lines. You got it? You got it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. So currently you see the numbers are huge on the axis titles. I want to like this one. This is population. Okay. So first of all, for a scatter plot, always label the x and y axis properly, and otherwise nobody knows what you're doing. So the x variable should be like this one, area, square kilometer. Area. Square kilometers. I just put a km square. Or something like this. Okay, yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be improved. I just leave it at that.
Okay.
Leave it like that for the moment. And for the y-axis is the population. In 2018. Okay. So these large huge numbers on the label, I can change it. So if I right click format axis, axis options. So for display unit, see here, display unit, you can choose. Wait. Axis options. For display unit, you can choose median.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you can see the median show up there. You can turn it off if you don't want that, or you can leave it there. Up to you. I'll probably turn it off. Show display units on label chart. Or display unit label on chart. I turn it off. And then in my axis label, I write this like a brackets medians. That's probably easier for people to read my chart. Okay. Okay. And then, of course, this data series you can change their color. Oh, no, I don't want that. What did I do? Not online. Just say that format data series. Yeah. you gently highlight one point, that will select the whole series. You see here, I'm adding the whole series. If you want to highlight any single point, you just gently click that point again. Then you are formatting a data point. Otherwise, if you just highlight the one point, you are formatting the whole series.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the trick. Yeah. So click once, you highlight the whole series. Click the same point again, you highlight that specific point. That's different. So yeah, I want to change my data point to maybe I change the marker colors and the shape. So I just highlight the whole series and right click format data series. And then in this paint bucket, I can I don't want lines, and for markers, I want a solid fill of some green color, and then I can also change the color option. I can also change the shape of color. You can also use picture if you have a picture.
Oh, okay.
Excel now have icons. If you have internet connected, you can choose icons.
I knew you were going to go for the alien.
A bunch of aliens. All right, don't do that. So, but here, if you want to do something naughty, you go to format data series, mark this paint bucket is all about the look, and then you go to marker option. You can change the marker shape, and then choose a picture. You can choose picture from your computer, or online pictures, or icons, or stock image. Stock image is the image on Microsoft website, and then you can choose some like a national flag.
Okay.
And country nation flag. No. Country flag. Bit boring.
So you could, if you were really keen, you could go and choose a flag for each
Country.
Yeah, and then you have to edit every single data point one by one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So even when you're adding a series, you are changing the whole series. But if you want to have a flag for every single country or group, then you have to click the data point again and then edit data point. And then edit data point, you can go to marker, and then marker option, you can change it to a picture. And then I want to change it to alien face. That will affect only that point, that single point. Yeah, and then this is probably too big. You can resize it. I don't know how to resize it. Never done it before. Yeah.
Okay. So you can't.
Yeah. The trick may be used for if you are designing something called the infographics. It's kind of not the. It's a kind of graphical presentation of data. It's used a lot in public media, yeah, but not much in scientific communication or papers. It's more like a more entertaining way of presenting quantitative information. But I'm gonna show you one thing.
Yep.
Markers. So we can change the marker shape. We can change the size. We can change the fill color. Okay. See, I think we probably go to the wrong one. You go to fill. If you go to fill, you can also fill points by picture or texture fill. And then insert picture, you can get you can get an icon. Did it work? Oh, see, they all become little alien faces. You see the marker fill?
I'll take your word for it on that one.
They just
It's got a round, still got a round shape to it.
Yeah.
So, like, if you had your round shape, and then you picked up the flag fill, you could have a round with the sort of colors of the flag, rather than flag shape. Is that what?
Yep.
That would work.
I guess so. Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
So
I've never done that before, so something to explore.
That's my homework.
Yeah. Yeah, the border color. You know, every marker has a border. You can choose no border or change the border color. Yeah. But the fill option is just like fill in the whatever shape you choose for the marker and fill in. You can fill in the picture. Or you can edit them one by one. But the thing I want to show you is data label. So if you highlight the whole series and then right click, add data label. And then if you click data label and then format data label, you can choose whatever label you want to show next to your data points. You can show X value or Y value or both. Okay. But I don't want to show any of them. I want to show the values in the column of G20 members' names. I want to show the values in the first column here. Okay. So I go to my chart, right click, show data labels. Just get the data labels out and then right click data labels and then format data labels. I want to show cost value from sales. Okay, and then and then turn off the others. So I turn off the others. Format data labels and choose value from the sales. And I choose the sales. That is column A, A2 to A21. And click OK. And then turn off the other X value or whatever. If I go back, now I should have the names of the points.
Oh, that's good. That's a good way.
For the ones at the bottom, there are 2 scores. I'll probably just delete them. I'll delete those ones at the bottom. You can zoom in a bit more. And then delete the ones at the bottom. I just delete all of them. delete all of them. Otherwise, the other approach is to you can delete if you just want to highlight some of them. Again, just go to that data point and then format data point and then add data label. And then choose value from choose the range for value from for that specific point. Yeah.
Can I just
so you can add yes.
You just deleted stuff, but can you like hide, say you're playing around and you don't, like you just sort of want to hide something? or you're creating a series and you want to start with a base one and then just hide, like, can you, or you have to hide, unhide, like delete, put in. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Sorry. I mean, once it's deleted, is it painful to put it back in? I suppose that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, you can't just hide them.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, you have to create two series like this one. So this last example before we finish. So this one, you can see here.
Yep.
I have two colors for emerging economies and advanced economies. This chart. The file I share with you. In this chart, there are two series of data. One is for the emerging economies. The other is the advanced economies. And I use the two series. I use the two different colors for the data points in two series. So if you go to right click and select data, you can see we have two series here. Yeah. And then the first series is of advanced economies. If I click edit, you can see the X values are only the areas of the advanced economies, and the Y values are only the populations of the advanced economies. That's the first series. Second series, emerging economies. The X values are here, and the Y values are here. Yeah. So if we want to show some points and hide the other points, you can manually add and delete, or you can create. You can divide your data into different groups according to your hiding strategy, and then and then add a separate series of data into your chart, and then just turn on the labels for some specific series, and then don't turn on the label for the other series or series. Yeah. So that's the hiding strategy, I think, in Excel chart. So when you want to make your chart dynamic or something, you have to create. Just use you can't use the whole data set in one series. You have to create some multiple series of data, and then you can do that. You can also explore the bubble chart if you like. See what bubble chart means. So it's almost the same as scatter plot, but the only difference is when you click select data and then add a series, now you have to add three values: the X values, the Y values, and the third value is for the bubble size. Yeah. So you can plot three quantity variables in one chart: population, area, and maybe trade volume. You can size the bubble. You can size the points, the bubbles by trade volume. Okay. But my experience is the look of your final product. It depends on what variables the third variable. If the numbers are still huge, you can imagine, and it'll be super crowded here, and then it doesn't have a good look. It's just like a very crazy crowded balls or circles squashed together. It doesn't have a nice look. Yeah, so
Still good to know about us.
Yeah, then lots of options. We can also make things more dynamic. So I can just when you ask me the hiding thing, I just remember that you can for this one, I can add one more series. Okay, so for example here, let's quickly show you. I can have an insert a new column. I call this one maximum trade. Okay, and then I'm going to get the maximum number. So if this country's trade is equal to the maximum of this column, then shows the trade volume, otherwise show nothing. Okay. No, I need to log this row number. I just put some random number here. Okay. So fill the gaps of the missing value. Do you see this? What I'm doing here in this? I'm creating an extra column. This column.
Yeah.
The function is for each one is here. So if the B3, if the value in the trade column is equal to the maximum of the whole column, B2 to B21, then show up the economy's trade volume.
I think you've lost me a little bit, but I can take a note of that or look back on it.
So that would allow you to set the limit. So when you're trying to show it to people, you could edit what the max is in real time, and that would manipulate your graph.
Oh, so you can do it.
Yep.
Yeah, while you've got the graph.
So basically, my graph will be dynamic. So if I add this column, so this column always show the maximum value, and then I can I can add one more series. That series will be the same like before, area and relation. So nothing different because just overlap. But when I go to chart design, I can choose format, I can choose the second series. Did I add on this one or the other one? Oh, I add on this one. Yeah, sorry. So this chart, you go to format, I choose the second series. And then right click, show data label. I can just show the values in this column. Doesn't look good anyway. I just thought about that.
That's okay. It's giving me a sense of the possibility.
Yeah, so that's how we make the dynamic. So we can create extra series of data and then And then you can show extra things like that one. If the column of trade changed, the label of maximum trade will automatically jump to the country or the member according to the current maximum value in the column of trade. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's just the basic charts and tables, pivot table things in Excel for today. Next time we'll probably explore some other charts, because now the charts I'm showing here are just the fundamental ones. Bar chart, scatter plot, histogram. I also show the box plot. Next time we're going to have a look at the new charts here, like this one, tree map and the sunburst chart, and also this one called the Pareto chart. Okay, and what's this? Combo chart. Yeah, combo charts also we can have a look at.
The Stockman chart.
Yeah, and this one's called the water, waterfall something.
Oh gosh. Oh, what's this one on the bottom? Radar. Oh god. Okay.
Yeah, reader chart is easy. Once you have a scatter plot, not pivot table, you can add a reader chart to show the values. So we have this, for example, this one. If you add a reader chart, they'll probably look like something like this. Do you remember this one?
I've never. Oh, well, I know the data that you showed us before. I've never
Yeah,
seen
I just use the data here. We have the pivot table of GDP per capita groups and the OECD and non-OECD, and then if I just click the pivot table and insert this reader chart down there, this one, we got this. But of course, this GDP per capita group is probably doesn't make sense. Maybe you have something else like indicators of performance.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, I can see it a bit more then.
Yeah, for example, we have a company, we have a
That's okay. You can show me an example next time. A really good one.
different products, and then their sales, and you can also have a different states, Queensland, New South Wales, and then we can use pivot table to calculate the sales of different products in different states.
I'm sure we'll have things to ask you next session when it comes to week 3, and we know how we'll actually be able to use Excel soon for all our assignments.
Yeah, so next time I will think of some more interesting examples of to use those kind of new charts in Excel, relatively new compared to the bar charts, pie charts, scatter plot.
You're blowing my mind.
Yeah, they look more interesting. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye.